Hello and welcome to the stream. I've been feeling kind of unwell, but decided to just try something here and take a look at this. We got the 7.4 Classic live time, live weather just out of China. And if we jump inside, I've got the speed pushed up against the barber pole. In fact, that's probably enough right now. Let's go to cruise. We're not hearing the overspeed, but we're right there. Now, if you take a look, there we hear it just briefly. Doing about 90% speed of sound. If we take a look on the little panels down here, we got about 120 knot tailwind from the heading of 280. And so with our heading being about 100 degrees, 115, it's more or less directly behind us. There we see the ground speed of 634. Now if I come over into windy, this is more or less where we are. So I departed from one of these airports around here and I've climbed up. Notice here that the height, I've got it set to 34,000 feet. So these are the winds as 34,000 feet. You can see, about 160 some knot tailwinds. So for some reason, X-Plane reducing it slightly again. They've got it around 120, but the heading is the same. And I created the flight plan purposefully to fly down this darker yellow bit. You can see if we come over into the ordinary yellow, it drops off, but this darker yellow bit. Now if we push the height up to 390, we can see we get a little bit extra speed, and so I am trying to climb my ways there. The problem is, once we climb much above flight level 350, the maximum speed that, in terms of Mach number, that the 7.4 can fly actually reduces a little bit. So what we gain on wind speed, we're going to lose on aircraft speed overall. Now if we take a look at this little image that I've prepared, we get to see what actually is the speed of sound, and the column that we're interested in is on the knots table. And so you can see it's third from the right. And you can see it varies depending on how high you are, which those of you who have been into flying or flight sims for a bit, you'll know it varies somewhat. You can see when it gets up to the troposphere at about 35, 40, 45, 50, it stays more or less the same, and that continues until you get into the stratosphere at about 75,000, I believe it is. Anyway, you can see at 35,000, which is what we're doing right now, the speed of sound is 574 knots. And that gets down to 573 at 40, and then it doesn't drop anymore again because of the troposphere. You can see it increases though as we lose height. So if I come over into X-Plane again, and if we take a look, so there we are, about 89-90% the speed of sound, and again it's about 90.06 or 7 where we get that overspeed warning. You can see what our ground speed is. Currently doing 630 knots, and again 631. There we see ground speed now 632. So it changes slightly. You can see the tailwind increasing a little bit for now. Currently 119. It comes a bit and then goes a bit. So 631 is the ground speed. But we're not at sea level. We're up at 35,000 feet. So if I come back over into this one, you can see 630 knots and we're at 35,000 feet. We're well above the speed of sound, again as it would be measured. Now the reason there's no sonic boom, and sonic boom is simulated in X-Plane, so if you do go faster you will hear a boom, but the reason we don't have one is because the wind is, as we see, if I come back in, the wind is behind us. And so we're not actually slicing through the air at the speed of sound. And that's why there's a difference between flying faster than the speed of sound versus breaking the sound barrier. And it's all down to, in this case, a very nice strong tailwind and the fact that we're pushing it all the way up to the barber pole. And every so often this happens in real life, and every so often they run a news article about it, and it's often got to be one of the wide bodies with 4 engines that do it, simply because they can fly it. You know, you ain't gonna get your Boeing 737 doing 90% the speed of sound without all sorts of alarms going off. Of course, the A380 can shift as well. And so that's how we're able to do it. And again, the live weather, as we see it right now, is this. And so, yeah, X-Plane is pulling in about 120 knots on the tailwind. So it's a little, you know, they're not quite 100% accurate on the speed. But if you imagine, if instead of it saying 120 knots in X-Plane, it did say 170 knots on the tailwind, we would be going even faster. And so that's going to be it, and hopefully I'll feel a little bit better soon and be able to resume back to doing some more videos. But that's a nice short quick one. Hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, if you ever wanting to try and repeat this by yourself, just go to windy.com. It's a website, and on the right, select wind, and then you've got like an altitude slider. Its default is obviously the speed on the ground, because that's where most people care about the wind, right? Just move it all the way up to 34, 39,000, something like that, and see where that yellow goes into that darker grey, you know, like we've like we've seen it here, this darker grey bit. And then just set your flight up going along where that grey is and see if you can do it. Alright, until next